That's the one. Oh, that's a nice tune.
I'm standing there with a bike going, I tried everything, trying to the other side. It's hard, it's hard. So I've been looking for I need to have folks to say they've got a list as well. That choice is one. I am, yeah, it's all right,
I'm very pleased to be invited to record this interview with David Blick, who's well known in the world of folk. David's had a lifetime involvement with folk dance, music and song. Last year, he received the highest accolade awarded by the English Folk Dance and Song Society, the Society's Gold Badge, which you can now see. Since 1922, only 150 gold badges have been awarded, and now David has one of these much coveted awards. And now let's meet David, and I'd like to ask him a few questions. David, what was your original introduction to folk music and dance?
In 1951, when I met a group of young people in Northampton, and we went to a youth club at the YWCA in Derngate in Northampton, where we happened to bump into a couple of people from the Northampton Square Dance Club and the Northampton Morris Men, and they taught us some country dances and encouraged us to sing a few folk songs together and a few Morris steps. And in the following year, I met the choristers at the Northampton Morris Men on a very wet coronation day at Midsummer Meadow in Northampton. Had a chat with them briefly, and they told me where they practiced, and basically that's it. I went along to Bective School and joined the Northampton Morris Men in 1953.
And then from there, how did you proceed from there?
From there I went on to dance with Northampton for a few years until I was called up to go into Her Majesty's service. Went to Germany for 2.5 years, formed a skiffle band, learned to play the guitar, called ourselves the 4-chord skiffle group, which is what we could actually manage on the guitar, and played singing and skiffle music and folk songs all over VAOR, 1957 to 61.
When you came home?
When I came home, I accidentally fell into a teaching post in Northampton, and taught for 6 months at Campbell Square Secondary School, which is now a redeveloped area, and I think it's a bus station now. But I met the Northampton Men again for a short while, and then got a job working in London, and where I had the opportunity on Sunday nights to go and join the Cecil Sharp Folk Club in the Cellar, and joined a couple of Morris dance teams in the London area, Ravensbourne and London Pride. And that was when I first saw what I came to know as the Forest of Dean jacket worn by the Bows of London City Morris men. And from that time on, 1963, I was intrigued by this Forest of Dean Morris jacket that was worn by the Bows of London City Morris men. And that brings us on to the reason why I suppose lots of things have happened since.
Right, and then from London, how did you come to move to the Forest of Dean?
Well, we were living in a very expensive part of London, Golders Green, and by this time we had one young son. And I decided it was better to move across somewhere in England to get more experience. And so I left Kilburn Polytechnic with a chance of doing 2 interviews, one at Eastleigh in Hampshire and one at the Forest of Dean. And I can remember standing in Princess Park Avenue with my wife and tossed a coin. Heads we go to the Forest of Dean, tails we go to Eastleigh. It came down heads, and 2 days later I was on my way to the Forest of Dean. And when I turned up Elton Corner, I wondered what on earth I'd come to, because it was so different from London, and Golders Green in particular. But anyway, I was lucky enough to get given the job as a lecturer in the Forest of Dean Mining and Technical College as it was then. And I've stayed there pretty well ever since then. That's the whole of my teaching career for the next 30 years. But in that 30 years, all kinds of things happened, like knock on the door, would I be interested in starting a folk club in Colford? Well, I immediately said yes, of course I would. And so I went across to the White Hart in Colford on the following Friday evening, met a group of guys there, and off the top of my head I just mentioned, if any of you wanted to learn to dance the Morris, be here on Sunday night. And lo and behold, 8 men turned up that following Sunday, and this was born. At that time we hadn't got any costumes, of course, but Annie and I, my wife, went up to Ruadine, where I discovered that the jacket originated from, and we met Mr. Fletcher. And he explained to us that the jacket his grandmother made for a chap called Cecil Sharp was made of bits of rag tied on a shirt and bits of feather. So Annie went home, and because we had 8 Morris dancers willing to dance, got shirts off all of them and produced 8 Morris jackets such as this one and the ones you can see behind you in about a fortnight. And we were then kitted out with a Forest of Dean jacket, which originates from Ruadine. 1968 that was, and since 1968 the rag jacket has proliferated all over the country. Most Morris sides either wear it as a costume dance or an out of dance costume to walk around. So you see it now in most Morris teams in the country. We've got 1 or 2 people, if not all, wearing a similar jacket, slightly different designs, but nevertheless it's all over the place now as a result of that, I suppose. We've been all over the place with the Morris. We've danced in France and Germany, Belgium, and we've still got contact with France and celebrating. We'll wait till that lorry goes past if we can.
Distance.
So in the time we've made friends with all kinds of Morris teams all over the country now, mainly as a result of in 1971 when by this time some of the lads had got married and more children were on the go. And at that time what were called Morris Ring meetings, when all the men would go off for a weekend and dance and sing at a venue, leaving their wives and children at home. And 2 or 3 of us in the Forest of Dean Morris thought in 1971, wouldn't it be nice to have a family weekend? Bring the families down and let the Morris men take care of themselves, and we would look after making sure that the wives and the children were entertained. And so the Forest of Dean Morris Family Weekend, started in 1971, is still going on to this day. And once a year in June, they all descend from Southport, from Leicester, from Leeds, from London, from all over the country. In fact, we've had people come to dance the Morris in Forest of Dean, which they thoroughly enjoy and associate the Forest with the tradition of Morris dancing.
Well, you can see the proof of the Morris dancing behind you, but I know that you also play the melodeon and guitar, and you have a really wide interest in folk music and song. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, well, apart from the Morris dancing and teaching this lot to dance, there's also a splinter group that set off in about 1980 called the Lassington Oak Morris Men, and they dance now in Gloucestershire. Quite strong, still quite friendly with us. We've also started various song clubs. We've been out and done various song clubs in places around the area. The Bunch of Carrots in Hereford, the Clearwell Castle Folk Club was famous for many, many years until the ownership changed, and they had to reorganise the place. It's now a wedding venue, but the Clearwell Folk Club was a very well-known venue, and lots of well-known people have appeared there over the 8 or 9 years that we ran that club.
I know that you've got a really fine singing voice, so you've done lots of folk songs.
Yeah. Well, I've collected folk songs since day one. I started collecting folk songs in Northampton. I've been singing folk songs and collecting stuff. Some original, some mostly traditional, and I thoroughly enjoy singing. I love to also encourage other people to sing. In fact, in October, we're going to restart the folk choir.
Another new venture
to get people singing, because I believe that if people can sing, it's a lot of people don't think they can sing, but I can honestly assure you that once they get in a group of people that are singing, they will sing.
Yes,
and it's working. Music-wise, I love playing the melodeon, squeeze box, known to other people. Formed a band called the Forest Brown Ceilidh Band. That's still going strong now. A few changes in personnel, but still, nevertheless, Forest Brown Ceilidh Band is going. There's another lovely group of people that I met at Upton on 7 one morning, sitting quietly having a cup of coffee, and one of the girls said, "Oh, I wish we could do something like that." And I said, "Well, okay, why don't you do it? Why don't you book a hall, tell your friends you're doing it, book a hall, the only expense you've got to lay out, see who turns up, and see what happens." And so a dance group called Wild Oats was formed, and they're going strong as well. They're a local forest group. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the Forest of Dean, which I can say, yes, there is a mark that I put down there, and it's still thriving today. So
I'd like to ask you now about something special, because I know that as well as Morris dance, you're really interested in country dance, and you had a very, very long ambition to fulfil a dream of yours.
Yeah, a long time ago I visited Llangollen, the International Music Eisteddfod, which used to be held in the field just outside Llangollen. Started in 1946 as a means of bringing countries that were originally at war with each other together in a peaceful and harmonious setting. It's international festival of dance, music and song, and I had an ambition, one day I will go there and I'll take a dance team there. So in 1994, I had the dream. So I wrote to Llangollen and said, could I bring a dance team to do English country dancing on the stage at Llangollen International Music Eisteddfod? They wrote back and said, we'd be delighted to have an English team here. We haven't seen one for many years. I had a shock of my life, because at that time I hadn't got a dance team. So I asked around the Forest of Dean Morris men, would their wives be interested in forming a performance team? We needed 8 couples and a 5-piece orchestra to play the music with traditional instruments. And I didn't tell them what was all about. I just said, meet me at the George Hotel in Newent and I'll display to you what's going to happen. And lo and behold, they all turned up. They all took it to heart. We danced against 27 other countries. We got 6th position in the score. Everybody had a wonderful, wonderful time, and we've done it 3 times. And each time we've represented England and the Forest of Dean on stage against the rest of the world. And yes, it would be nice to go and do it all again.
Right. So that brings us up to date, more or less. Or we've missed out loads and loads of things that you've done in the past. But now you're retired, would you like to say what your involvement is now? Because I think you're just as busy as you ever were.
Yes, I've got two major interests now in dance, and that's the Mayhill Country Dance Group. Dance at Mayhill Village Hall once a month. And also, the last 21 years now, we've been running, Barbara and I have been running a dance group in Monmouth, a country dance group. Very strong, very keen, University of the Third Age, all over 55 years old, mostly retired, but they all thoroughly enjoy doing traditional dances, some simple, but they do like a challenge of the more complicated Playford set of dances. So we're tackling all kinds of dances there, thoroughly enjoying it, and hopefully that will carry on for a few more years yet.
And I think you play music for not just the Forest Morris, but the Wimbury Step Clog.
Yeah, Wimbury Step Clog is another interest that I've got. I've started playing for them, I forget how many years ago now, but Wimbury Step Clog was formed out of the wives of the Forest of Dean Morris men, wanting to do something when the men were out dancing. Why can't the ladies do something? So a group of them got together, formed the Step Club team, and I became their musician. I don't know how many years ago now, but once again I'm involved heavily with their performances. Yeah. And
I know that you're so enthusiastic about passing your interest on to other people that you've started a music group to encourage new players.
Well, the slow music sessions started in Newent and has developed into a Sunday night gathering once a month where people with a small amount of interest in music or a small amount of ability, they learn to play fiddle at school perhaps and lost it, or they learn to play guitar and don't bother anymore because they've got no one to play with. They come along to my house once a month on a Sunday, and we endeavour to play slowly to encourage them along. And since then, a number of people have gone on to do other things, like playing for other dance teams. A pair of youngsters went to Shetland, saw some fiddle players in the Shetland Festival, and decided they wanted to come and learn to play fiddle. They hadn't played since school. They're now a duet who go out playing all over the country as a well-known fiddle duet. So they've revived their school day interest into almost a professional status.
I happen to know that you've been involved yourself in teaching school children things like maypole dancing and...
Well, maypole dancing, yes, we've done that with schools. We've had some fantastic experiences there. We've had some fantastic experiences with the mummers' plays at Christmas time, yeah, with the Morris men. And we've taught the kids in schools to do mummers' plays. We've also started Harvest Home in the autumn at Eric Freeman's farm,
yeah,
and we do wassailing every January, which has now become very popular all over Gloucestershire, maybe as a result of what we did with the Forest of Dean Morris men. Maybe it was incidental otherwise, but it's all started up again, and life folk-wise in the Forest of Dean has proliferated, I think, since 1968.
Yeah, there were Tuesday sessions in local pubs, I happen to know that you were
Tuesday sessions in local pubs, yeah. There's something on every Tuesday within 10-mile radius.
Many counties would be very envious of those sessions, wouldn't they?
I think they would indeed, yes. Especially the one we had last Saturday night at the Midgewood Folk Festival.
Yeah. Now, we may need to find somewhere a bit quieter than this, but it would be really nice if you could sing one of your favourite songs for us, but it may be possible
we can do it here, yeah, because it was sung in a very noisy atmosphere, and I did at one time have a privilege of singing in the garden of Hambridge, where in 1903 Cecil Sharp went to visit a fellow scholar, the vicar of Hambridge, and he was in the vicarage garden when the gardener was in the garden, and through the windows of the lounge bar he heard the gardener singing The Seeds of Love, which is the first song in Penguin, the first song Cecil Sharp collected, and it's the first song in the Penguin Book of Folk Songs, which has just been republished, and it goes a bit like this. I sowed the seeds of love, and I sowed them in the springtime, gathering them up in the morning so soon, while small birds sweetly sing, while small birds sweetly sing. The gardener was standing by, and I asked him to choose for me. He chose me the violet, the lily and the pink, but those I refused all three. Yes, those I refused all three. The violet I did not like, because it flowered so soon. The lily and the pink, well, I really overthink, so I vowed that I'd wait till June. So I vowed that I'd wait till June. In June there came a red rosebud, and that's the flower for me. It's oftentimes I picked that red rosebud, till I gained the willow tree, till I gained the willow tree. The willow tree will twist, and the willow tree will twine. It's oftentimes I've been in that young girl's arms that once held this heart of mine, that once held this heart of mine.
That's absolutely lovely, David. Thank you very much. And I know that there are hundreds of people all over Gloucestershire and other parts that are really, really grateful to you for all the enthusiasm that you've passed on, and we're also pleased that you've been recognised by receiving the gold badge that you showed us at the beginning. Thanks very much, David.
Pleasure. Pleasure's all mine.
Yes, you well, Scotland. Right, one now,
Where, tell me where has my island has gone? It's gone to the walls with its killing.
All the good guys on the one side, all the pretty guys on the other.